Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Here's how people can request a copy of their previous tax return. IRS Tax Tip 2021-33, March 11th, 2021. Taxpayers who didn't receive a copy of their prior year's tax return but now need it have a few options to get the information. Individuals should generally keep copies of their tax return and any documents for at least 3 years after they file. So obviously, after we file the tax return, we want to make sure that we're holding on to the tax return. And if we do certain types of things, such as want to log into certain things on the IRS or discuss things with the IRS, they may use line items such as the adjusted gross income on our prior year tax return in order to verify our identity. So that's one reason we might need those tax returns. Another reason we might need those tax returns is simply for the tax preparation purposes. If you're going to a new taxpayer or something like that, or you're trying to file your tax return, you may also need that information if you're using tax software, because they might use something like that adjusted gross income level number in order to verify your identity there as well. And obviously also, you want to be holding on to the tax returns in the event that you are audited or the IRS comes back and asks questions about the tax return or some issue within it. You might think once you file the tax return and you get a refund, it's all over at that point in time. It's good and you're going to move forward. But no, not necessarily, because the IRS has at least 3 years in the statute of limitations. And if they think there's a substantial type of error, possibly even longer than that, therefore, you want to make sure you're holding on to your tax returns for at least that time period, the 3 years, so that if they do come back and ask you questions about it, you can go back to your tax return, check it out, see if you agree or not with the IRS's position, and then move forward from that point in time. So what if you don't have your prior year tax return? So what if you need to do one of these types of things, like use tax software that's looking for the adjusted gross income, or you're working with some other tax preparer, they want your prior year tax return or something like that? Then what do you do in that situation? So if a taxpayer doesn't have this information, here's how they can get it. Ask the software provider or tax preparer. Individuals should first check with their software provider or tax preparer for a copy of their tax return. So first place you want to go is to who made the tax return. Was it made by the software provider, meaning you use like a TurboTax or something like that, and you might be able to get access from them. So go to them first. Then if you can't do that, or the other person, of course, is your tax preparer. If you went to a tax preparer, like a CPA firm or an H&R Block or something like that, then you'd want to go to them and see if they can give you a copy of the tax return. So that's going to be the first place to go. If you can't get it there for whatever reason, get a tax transcript. So if a taxpayer can't get a copy of a prior year return, then they may order a tax transcript from the IRS. So obviously, when you file the tax return, the IRS has that information. They could basically put it into like a transcript type of format, which is kind of like basically a tax return type of format in the format of a transcript. So these are free and available for most current tax year after the IRS has processed the return. So clearly, in order to get the transcript of the return from the IRS directly, that return would first then need to be processed so it's in the system so that you can go in there, log into your account, and so on and so forth, request a transcript for it. So to protect taxpayers' identities, the document partially hides personally identifiable information such as names, addresses, and social security numbers. So although you get the transcript, it's going to have some of that detailed information that will not be included because the IRS is using that as an attempt to reduce identity theft and so on. So that's probably a good thing. Prior to this, they used to have that stuff on the transcripts, and that could be useful when you need them for certain things, but they're not including that, and that seems good too as well. So all financial entries, including the filer's adjusted gross income, are fully visible. People can get them for the past 3 years, and they need to allow time for delivery. Here are the 3 ways to get the transcripts. Online, people can use Get Transcript Online to view, print, or download a copy of all transcript types. So you can go actually online into your account online. There's a link to Get Transcripts Online here if you would like to use that option. They must verify their identity using the secure access process. So clearly, if you're going to do this online, you got to go through an identity verification, which could be somewhat rigorous, and part of it possibly could be asking you for things on your prior year tax return, which may be the reason that you're looking into the account in the first place. So taxpayers who are unable to register or prefer not to use Get Transcript online may use Get Transcript by mail. So if for whatever reason you can't do it online, possibly because they asked you about something on the prior year tax return to verify your identity, which you didn't have, because that's why you're going on, then maybe you can do it by mail to order a tax return or account transcript type. So taxpayers should allow 5 to 10 calendar days for delivery. You can also check it out by phone. Taxpayers can call 800-908-9946 to request a transcript by phone. Transcripts requested by phone will be mailed to the taxpayer. By mail, taxpayers can complete and send either Form 4506T or Form 4506TEZ. There's a link to those two forms here to the IRS to get one by mail. So you can go to these forms, you can print out these forms, fill them out, send them in by mail requesting the transcripts. They use Form 4506T to request other tax records, tax account transcript, record of account, wage and income verification of non-filers. So you can actually get more detailed information with it as well, because in some instances you might want information about, some of the documentation that was sent to the IRS, and you have a similar situation there. For example, in prior years, if you hadn't done the tax return or something like that, then you might want the documentation like W-2s, 1099s, and whatnot in order to do so. First place to go, once again, would be to the issuer, like the employer, the issuer of the 1099s, to get that information so you can file the tax returns. But if you can't, then maybe you can go to the IRS and see if, because they have a copy too of it, because the issuer, say the employee, for example, gave a copy to the IRS as well, so you might be able to go there and pick up the information in the event that you can't get it in any other way. So these forms are available on the Forms, Instructions, and Publications page on irs.gov. Request a copy of a tax return from the IRS. Prior year tax returns are available from the IRS for a fee. So if it's not a transcript and you want the actual tax return, you can get it for a fee. Taxpayers can request a copy of a tax return by completing and mailing Form 4506 to, and there's a link to that form here, to the IRS address listed on the form. There's a $45 fee for each copy, and these are available for the current tax year and up to 7 years prior. So if you're looking for something beyond, I believe it was 3 years for the transcripts, or if you want the actual, copy of the tax return for whatever reason instead of the transcript, I would think that more likely you're trying to go further back, like 7 years, then possibly you would then want to use the Form 4506 and pay the $43 in order to do so.